Hey guys, it's Ryan from the newsdeadworld.net. Back with another review of a Scream Factory film this time. A collector's edition Blu-ray of Jeepers Creepers. This one you can see gets new cover artwork, and I really love that because I'm not a huge fan of the old artwork. The first film, actually both films, I don't really think that the artwork does it justice, and so I'm glad that they actually got a new cover for both of the films. And it's artwork done by the usual guy who does all of their collector's edition copies. So that's really nice to see. And also, it's nice to see that both Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2 get double disc editions, one with the film in an HD, and as it comes with the first film, a 2K HD scan, and also one with special features, just kind of packed with special features, interviews and uh, deleted scenes. Some of them ported over from other previous editions, but some new to this disc. So there's a lot of turmoil regarding the releases of both of these films, especially and mainly because of Victor Salva, who is a convicted child molester. And so that occurred during Clown House, 1989 film, where he did molest the child actor on that film. And it has really raised a lot of questions about whether you should actually buy and support a director who is known for doing those terrible things. So I'm not really going to get into that in this video, and I didn't in my review as well. But I just wanted to bring that up and say that, not condoning it, reviewing the film for the film, rather than anything else. So not really going to get into that a whole lot in this video review or at all. Just in this the beginning part of this review. So other than that, we'll get that out of the way, and we'll actually tackle the film itself, which is actually on its 15th year anniversary. I didn't really realize that, but it originally released in 2001, and that's kind of crazy to me because I do remember it coming out, and I remember people talking about it quite a bit within the actual, when I was in school, people were talking about Jeepers Creepers, how within the film there's this song that plays, which is actually really creepy. So I remember that from school, but I didn't really put two and two together that it was, all the way back from 2001. But I never really saw it when it first came out. It took a while for me to see it. I think the first time I actually saw it was Halloween, probably 10 years ago now. I watched it on Halloween when they had it on TV, and it's different when you watch it on TV and it's edited. I'll say that much. I used to watch a lot of films on TV, and then you watch them later on when they're not edited, and you see a lot of things that you just didn't see when they were edited for television. So, but I do remember watching it a long time ago, and it's been a while since I've actually returned to it. So it was kind of interesting to watch Jeepers Creepers again and see how it fared from the last time I remember viewing it. The biggest thing that I find interesting about Jeepers Creepers, though, is that alluring archetype of the backwoods highway and the loneliness of being one of the only cars that's on that highway, and not knowing what's there waiting for you on that highway. So you always have that sense of loneliness when you're driving along by yourself or with another person. In Jeepers Creepers' case, just kind of traveling down this lonely road, and especially in the dark, not sure what's waiting for you. And that kind of holds true for the place that I live in, which is pretty rural. You have a lot of those types of highways where you're just kind of the only car on it, and for long stretches of road, there's no one else there. It does make sense that at some point you could encounter something strange on that lonely road. And Jeepers Creepers, Victor Salva's script, really takes that into account. It follows both Trish and Derry, played by Gina Phillips and Justin Long, respectively, as they were coming home from college, and they're driving on this back stretch of road, which they know has actually had a murderer committed on it before. It's kind of a mythological tale that used to be told at their high school, but really there was a murder, and a woman lost her head, and There's all sorts of tall tales about that occurrence, but they know that it's the same stretch of road that they're now traveling on. So their senses are heightened. They're kind of nervous about just driving on this road. It reminds them of that scary tale. And then they encounter a huge truck that comes flying up behind them, bumps into their back bumper on their Chevy Impala, and really just begins to terrorize them on this long stretch of road. It's kind of souped up, so they can't get away from it. Their car's kind of beat up and kind of junky, so they can't really get any good distance between the truck and themselves. And it's a really scary scene. It goes on for quite a while. And it really reminds of the best highway tales, like Duel, Steven Spielberg's film, which is a masterpiece of suspense on the open road. And Jeepers Creepers takes a lot of inspiration from films like that, from other Hitchcockian films, and it really allows that tension in that first act to expand and just it doesn't really let up throughout that first part. And Justin Long and Gina Phillips are really good in their roles, allowing this to kind of take over, this scare to take over, and so that really envelops the viewer, especially in that first act, because that's probably the best part of Jeepers Creepers, is when the creeper is not so much a monster as he is a human being who is just terrorizing them at every turn, and not really has no remorse for what he's doing. At that point, we don't really know what it is. It just seems like a guy driving a crazy truck, which could be anyone in my area. And he, they don't really see who that is. So his presence and the monstrosity that he is doesn't come out until the final two acts, Act 2 and 3, when they actually encounter him in person. When that occurs, the film loses a little bit of its psychological drama. It makes sense. Jeepers Creepers can't be stuck in the car the whole time, although films have done that. But it tries to expand a little bit, to get a little bit more complex. Victor Salva tries to amp things up a little bit, and he creates this fairy tale around the creeper. So not only is the creeper just supposed to be a monster, but he actually gives him a strong backstory about it's kind of like a very complicated story of his existence, but really he comes out every so often during the spring. Unfortunately for Derry and Trish, it's this spring, and he feasts on those people that he senses fear in, or he senses something about them that he really wants within them. And it basically boils down to he eats them and then he steals their body parts. But the thing of it is it becomes too complicated. Salva tries to create this sort of storyline that doesn't really make too much sense. First the creeper just attacks, then as the psychic Giselle explains, when you hear the song Jeepers Creepers, Jeepers Creepers, where'd you get those peepers? When you hear that song playing, that means that he's coming after you. That's not always the case, and the creeper is often shown without any sort of jingle going along with him. So, again, that just seems like what Salva explains as a campfire tale about the creeper. Something that's kind of fun and far-fetched and goofy, not so easy to, take as realism. But I think Jeepers Creepers, for its first act, is really strong. And then, about halfway through the film, it starts to lose that aspect of it. That tension kind of subsides as, especially when Trish and Derry make it to town. When they meet more people and they're kind of not alone anymore, the suspense of them being alone on a highway kind of dissipates. Especially when they encounter police and they make it to a police station, and even their firepower can't stop the creeper. All of that stuff is kind of unnecessary. It's excessive. We don't need that, and it kind of takes away the fear that we have for the creeper, especially in those first few scenes when we don't know if he's a monster, if he's basically just a crazy human. That's a little bit scarier to me. But I mean, you can understand where Sal is coming from. He wants to make the creeper into something that's memorable. There's a lot of cool designs for the creeper, especially in that one scene where his little antenna, they kind of open up into it while he's screaming. That's a cool scene. It's a little bit different, and we don't really get that often. But Jeepers Creepers adds a lot of excess things to the creeper. Like he gets wings. And again, coming back to that Jeepers Creepers song, he somehow is able to play the song while he's attacking. There's a lot of supernatural twists like that, especially when the psychic Giselle comes into play, and it takes away a lot of the suspense from what Jeepers Creepers could be if it really stuck with that more humanistic, realistic aspect. The quiet understatement of what Jeepers Creepers does in its first act falls away, becomes a little bit more ridiculous. And in part, that's intentional. It doesn't seem like Salva is really trying to be super believable and realistic within this, but at the same time, it doesn't do the film any favors when the creeper becomes less scary and just more nonsensical. Even so, I do enjoy Jeepers Creepers quite a bit, a little bit more than I thought I would. Even though it does have its flawed moments, it's still quite a bit of fun in the beginning portion of it. And, you always, even if you don't think that it's a very good movie, you always have the creeper doing backflips over the car as he jumps and runs across the hood. So you can always laugh at that. But like I said before, Justin Long and Gina Phillips are pretty good in this film. And there are a number of creepy scenes within, especially when Derry goes into the basement church. That's a pretty good scene, even though some of the special effects aren't the greatest, and you can definitely tell within this 2K scan. Even if you don't like Jeepers Creepers a whole lot, though, this Scream Factory Blu-ray Collector's Edition has a great set of special features on it, and the 2K scan looks really nice. No issues with sound quality, not really any issues with the video that I could see. But I'm not an expert on Blu-ray stuff. I kind of watch the film and I decide whether I think it looks good or not. I don't really have a scientific explanation sometimes for the things that I pick out within the film. Like some of the other, reviewers, I can't match up to like Blu-ray.com because I don't have that knowledge base for, the technological aspect of film restoration. But to me, it looks really good, and so just take my word for it. It looks pretty good. But the special features on here are really nice. We do get some new interviews. One of them is like about a half an hour long, which is it's called Then and Now. So it gets some people back, like Victor Salva, who does discuss his work behind the scenes on the film. Some of the directors of photography, some of the editors, they come back for it as well. There's also a new audio commentary track from Victor Salva, Justin Long, and Gina Phillips, which is surprising because Justin Long and Gina Phillips are missing from the other parts of the interview and special featurettes that are included on it. So it's nice to have their audio commentary, even though they're not really present on the rest of the disc. Must be they were only available for that, so they don't really give any interviews. There's also some interviews with some of the other, secondary characters. We get Patricia Belcher, who played Giselle within the film. She gives about a 15-minute interview for that. There's also a interview with the director of photography, who also did some work on some other horror films, including Android with Klaus Kinski and the Critters film series. So I was a huge fan of that in probably the 90s. My dad used to own a video store, and I remember seeing all those VHS tapes on the shelf. They always really interested me for Critters. So that's kind of interesting that he shows up on here to kind of give a get a little backstory on the making of Critters, even though it's not really related to Jeepers Creepers all that much. Also included on here are some older features that probably made it to like DVD and other releases for Jeepers Creepers. There's a 6 parts documentary series on the making of Jeepers Creepers. There's some deleted scenes that are included. Uh, Actually, about 17 minutes of deleted and extended scenes. Then there's the usual like theatrical trailers, radio spots, photo galleries, things like that. So I would say that there's a good chunk of time spent on just extra features in this film, and then you get reversible cover art and stuff like that. So overall, a really nice collector's edition for those who enjoy Jeepers Creepers. And for those of you who aren't really sure if you really love the film or not, I still think this is a really good buy, especially when you buy them together. Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2, because both are getting like that special treatment. It just makes sense to get them together. And even if you're not a huge fan of Jeepers Creepers, this treatment is really nice, and I think most horror fans would at least want this on their shelf, depending on your moralistic stance on Victor Salva. Thanks for watching this video review of Scream Factory's Jeepers Creepers release. I do have Jeepers Creepers 2 as well, so that is coming down the pike very shortly. And I still have to do the second episode of Outcast, which I have not had a chance to watch yet. I've been pretty busy, had a baby shower this past weekend, so life has gotten in the way, but I definitely expect to do it soon. We also released, not too long ago, yesterday, a new episode of Blood and Black Rum podcast, which is a podcast that I do with my friend Chris Martin. We recently covered Office Space, so even though it's not really horror related, it's still a fun thing that we do. We really enjoy doing the podcast, even though we might not have a ton of listeners. But I invite you to go and check out the podcast. We're up on SoundCloud and also on iTunes, so if you just search Blood and Black Rum podcast, you can find us. Give us a listen. Let us know what you think. And let us know if you have any films that you want us to cover, because we're always looking for suggestions and things that you would be interested in seeing us cover. So give it a listen. Let us know what you think. Let me know what you think in the comments about Jeepers Creepers. And I will be back next time with another film review. Thanks for watching.